Again, thank you all for being here. I hope you've enjoyed your dinner and your conversation with one another. It's great to see so many libertarians in a room together here in Utah. Yeah. We were talking earlier today. We had the State Central Committee meeting, and we met in one of the meeting rooms at the library in Sandy, which was a really interesting place for us to meet in 2021, because back in 2010, we actually held our state convention in one of the meeting rooms at the library in Sandy, and there were 11 of us there at a state nominating convention. We've come so far in this last decade. I am so excited. I am so delighted to see so many people here tonight. And I can't wait to do this a year from now and have 100 people in the room, because I think we can do it. We are growing like crazy. I'm just so excited. I want to take a couple of minutes before we move on to other things and introduce a few of the people in the room here tonight, because there are some people here who have been very important to the growth of the Utah Libertarian Party. And first of all, I want to introduce the guy who was chair when I joined the party, because he's been a guiding light for me in this party, and he's a guiding light in the fight for the First Amendment throughout this country. He's an attorney who has argued First Amendment cases before the Supreme Court, and he's our former chair, Andy McCullough. Andy, thank you so much. There's another former chair in this room that I want to introduce. And I hardly know what all to say about him, but I'll say this. I have been told, and I can say this even without knowing everyone else here, that he is probably the most well-armed man in the party.
In the country.
Perhaps in the country. And that is the man who was the chair of this party back at, and I've been waiting all day to say this phrase, back at the turn of the century. Mr. Jim Dexter. Hey, Jim. There's one other former chair in this room that I need to introduce, and that's the man who became chair at the same time that I became vice chair. And we really kind of hardly knew each other. We were acquainted a little bit, but that was about it. But we've established a really good friendship ever since then. And I'm delighted. He's been a great inspiration to me as well. And that's Dr. Joseph Buchman. Now, there are some other people here that I want to recognize. I have three of our current county chairs here in the state of Utah. And first off, it's a great delight just to say that, because a year ago, we didn't have any organized county parties. We now have 4, and by the end of January, we will have a 5th organized county party as Iron County comes on. But I want to introduce 3 people who are here tonight. First of all, our chair of our Salt Lake County Party, Mr. Jason DeVries. Our chair from Davis County, Mr. Adam Feller. And, as of right now, our newest county chair, Mr. Jacob Johnson from Weber County. If you're in any of these counties, please get in touch with these guys, get involved. Our county parties are going to be really key next year when we've got elections going on all over the state. And it's going to be really important for all of us to get involved with our county affiliates and get behind and back our candidates. That's going to be a key thing. Now, somebody else I need to recognize, because he's also become a friend from the time that I've gotten to know him, and he was our candidate last year for governor. And that's Dr. Daniel Cottom, and he's been a great supporter of this party. Thank you, Dan. Thank you all. And I say, there's somebody else I need to recognize here. A couple more people, actually, but this one is kind of special to me. You know, there are 3 people in this room who probably have been candidates individually more often than anybody else in the room. One of them is Andy, one of them is me, and the other one over here is Brent Zimmerman, because he's been a real warrior for us up there in Davis County. Thank you, Brent. And finally, one other guy I really want to recognize tonight is another good friend and one of our most distinguished elected libertarians in this state. He was the first elected libertarian mayor in the history of Utah. He was also the first openly gay mayor in the history of Utah. And he was the mayor of Big Water. I love telling the story of the very first thing that he did when he became mayor of Big Water, Utah, which was to repeal his own salary. The most libertarian thing you could possibly do. Mr. Willie Starr Marshall. Mr. Utah Libertarian, that's Willie. Where is Big Water? Big Water is on US 89, right near the Arizona border, down near Lake Powell. Page. Near Page, yes. Just across the border from Page a little bit. Big Water. Willie repealed his salary. Willie started dismissing fines that he thought were trivial. He dismissed cannabis convictions as best he could.
Decriminalized marijuana.
We decriminalized marijuana. Told the sheriff's department to stop enforcing. And got all the streets paved without raising taxes. For not all the streets.
We cut them by half.
We cut them by half. All right. And then paved the roads. So anytime somebody tells you that we don't like roads, we like having roads paved. We really do like having roads paved. We just think it costs way too much, and somebody's pocketing a lot of money. And it's our money they're pocketing. All right. So, again, thanks to all of you for being here. I mean, I could probably keep on introducing people for another half hour, but we've got a lot of other stuff to do. And right now, I want to invite one of those people that I introduced earlier to come on up to the dais. Dr. Joe Buchman, as you know, has been key in preserving the David Nolan archive on behalf of the party, the archive which is now about to go off to the Library of Congress. David Nolan, the founder of the Libertarian Party back in 1971. But as part of that research, Joe has been spending a lot of time learning about Carl Bray. And if you don't know the name of Carl Bray, you should know the name of Carl Bray, because Carl was the very first chair of the Utah Libertarian Party way back in 1971. And we know now that as early as 1969, he was the head of the Utah Libertarian Alliance, before there was a Libertarian Party anywhere in the United States. And although we haven't quite found the guest list, we believe he was in David Nolan's living room the night that the party was founded. And there's a lot of evidence there. It's just not quite conclusive enough to say definitively, but we're certain of it, that he was there. And we know that he and David Nolan were good friends. So the connection is there. You know, the National Party is having meetups like this in all the other states next week, because the 11th is technically the founding day of the party, December 11th, 1971. But I really felt we ought to be first, because we were first. Utah was first. So we deserve to be recognized. But I've asked Joe to take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about what he's learned about Carl Bray, our founder. He's been gone a long time, far too long. He left us far too young. But Joe, please come up and share some things about Carl.
Thanks, Barry. Yeah, Barry's a guest in our home, so we were talking about this a little earlier. I'm going to move the mic up if I can remember how to do that. There we go. And so I went digging, and let's see if I can find it here. In the Utah Liberator, Volume 1, Number 4, November 1995, there was an article about the history of the Utah Party, and it said the Libertarian Party of the United States was organized, it was actually in Colorado Springs, on December 11th, 1971. Carl Bray, who founded the Libertarian Party of Utah, was present at the meeting. So I found that in one of our publications. Yeah, just not long ago, just earlier today. Carl used to wear a trifold hat, get on a horse, and go through Liberty Park, passing out Carl Bray dollars because they were going to be worth more than a Federal Reserve note because of the fraud of the Federal Reserve. And there was TV coverage of that. Of course, all that video seems to have been lost to history. And Jim Dexter and I know one of the great tragedies is if you go back and look at our 25th anniversary celebration program, there was an audio tape played of Carl at that 25th, 25 years ago, celebration, and it was lost in a fire and a flood, and the house burned down, and the person was murdered. I don't know. All sorts of hell broke loose with, what was her name, the former secretary? Epstein, yeah, exactly. I have been searching for a recording of Carl, I don't know, for 5 years now. Surely there's one out there. I've talked to the people that recorded earlier, Libertarian National Conventions and the like. And Carl, if you don't know, Carl passed away of an insidious cancer at the age of only 34. He's buried in Provo. If you go to findagrave.com, you'll see a picture of me there when I was the Libertarian Party chair here in Utah, kneeling in front of his grave where carved in stone, just down in Provo, it says Carl Bray. Whatever year he was born, died in 1978. Carved in stone are the words, "The Libertarian Tax Rebel." And he was jailed by an evil judge, Judge Ritter. Did you ever appear before Judge Ritter, Andy?
No, I never did.
But he was nuts, right?
That's what we heard.
Yeah, and Judge Ritter threw Carl into chains in solitary confinement for the horrible crime of counterfeiting IRS tax seizure stickers. So if you owe taxes and you have property, and the IRS wants it, they'll put a little sticker on your car, or a little sticker on your house, or whatever. Well, you make counterfeit tax stickers and put them on cars all over Salt Lake, which I got a Burning Man. I consider that classic performance art. Judge Ritter found it suitable of throwing him in solitary confinement. Carl was sure that if he could appeal to the United States Supreme Court, he was an attorney, that he could win a case that the income tax was unconstitutional. And we all know it is. It's voluntary, right? That didn't go over well with the courts either, and they wound up in federal prison. Couldn't really get treatment for his cancer, and died at a very young age. And we've kind of lost Carl Bray's history here in Utah, but the California Party still gives their Volunteer of the Year award as the Carl Bray Award for the Volunteer of the Year in the state of California. Some of you may know that I'm the current chair of the Financial Audit Committee for the National Party, so I get to look into all the deep, dark secrets of the party, which is, great fun. But I've also been scanning and indexing and archiving the personal papers of David Fraser Nolan, who founded this party. David was a student at MIT. He planned to be an architect because he read The Fountainhead. Of course, everyone reading The Fountainhead at the age of 16 wants to be an architect. And he wound up at MIT and shifted to computer science very early. This was 1964. And was one of the first 4 graduates from there in political science. And David was active in the Young Republicans for Goldwater movement, and then the Young Republicans and Young Americans for Freedom movements at the time. And the word libertarian was very much around in the 1960s in those movements. The libertarians were those Republicans who were opposed to Nixon and the draft. They were the hippie kind of young Republicans. And there was a great convention where Dave ran for vice chair, and fortunately did not get elected, because if he had, he might not have decided to found this party. So there's 3 main dates around the founding of the party. July 16th, 1971, where they met in David's living room and said, well, I don't know if we can pull this off, a new political party. Let's meet again on August 27th. Does anybody remember August 27th, 1971? It was a Sunday night. The president went on TV, probably a black and white TV, and President Nixon announced on that Sunday night the imposition of wage and price controls on the United States economy. The draft was still raging, the Kent State shootings had happened 6 months earlier, and then he announced that he was taking the United States off the last remnants of the gold standard. And David and the 4 friends in his room, his wife Susan and 3 other people, I imagine threw the TV out the window. But if they didn't, they turned it off and said, that's it, we're done. No more being Republicans. Maybe we can found a new party. And then it was on December 11th down in Colorado Springs, not in David's living room, but at an apartment, I forgot the fellow's name, where they had they had mailing lists, sent out about 100 letters. They said, sent out about 1,000 letters, said, we get 100 back, we'll start a new party. And they had a survey for the various names. And Carl Bray was there in Colorado Springs on December 11th when they declared, we'll create a new party. This time we're committed to causing liberty, not just for some, but for all. Not just all men, not just white men, but everybody. Women, people of color, people with different sexual preferences. We want liberty for all. They had their first press announcement the following January and the first convention. And I found in our own papers earlier today, John Hospers campaigned here in Utah during that run in 1972. So I'm looking for a photo or any news coverage of that. When I find it, I'll update you again. And then just real quickly, I want to give you a few dates that'll be fun to celebrate as we go through 1972. It was on August 31st, 1972, that Carl identified himself as the state chairman of the Libertarian Party in Utah in a letter to the editor of the Provo Daily Herald. The date of the founding of this party was actually the 26th of October, 1972. So we've got a whole year to continue to celebrate. There was certainly Carl here saying he was a libertarian and doing libertarian things before that. Some of the things we did back in the past, and I'll just do another minute because I know you want to get to the real keynote speaker. Back in 1975, people who filled out their $1 donation, on your tax form, you can support political activity. If they came into our offices, and we actually had an office, and they showed us where they had donated $1 to the state, we would give them $1 back. We would refund their contribution for that. Carl Bray died on May 7th, 1978. Barry, I know you have high hopes. On June 18th, 1989, 60 delegates gathered to elect Doug Jones as the chairman of the Libertarian Party. Doug lives up in Idaho. I was hoping he would be here tonight. He told me he was planning on coming. But he's still supporting us. He's been giving me old copies of old newsletters, digging through his files. 1995, Jim Loretz became chair, followed by Jim Loretz, what was the other Jim?
Jim Elwell.
Jim Elwell, and then Jim Dexter became, huh?
Jim Elwell before Jim
Loretz. Jim Lorenz, and then Jim Dexter, and they were known as? The Triumvirate. So we have 1/3 of the party's Triumvirate with us here today. Anyhow, lots of fun history. We'll look forward to sharing that with you. Some of the newsletters as we go through the next year, but I think I'll stop talking now. I've had enough fun for one night. So I get the applause for stopping talking. Before I do though, how many of you are going as delegates to Reno? How many are planning? We'll get a bus, we're going to throw a party, we'll get over there.
We got a van.
Sweet. All right, and will you be there as well? So we'll have a grand reunion of this meeting in Reno at the convention. And Barry, do you want me to give it back to you or introduce our speaker?
Actually, I think what we should do before that is everybody raise a glass to Carl Bray.
Let's do that. I'll get mine. Thanks, Barry. Here's to Carl Bray, the founding chair of the Libertarian Party of Utah and a martyr to the cause of liberty at the hands of an evil, tyrannical federal government that fucking killed him. That's right. Cheers. Cheers. Yep.
Thank you, Joe. One of the things that you might take a look at over on that table over there before you go, there's a printout of a page from 1974 of election results in the state of Utah that I was able, yes, Bill's waving it over there, that we were able to pull down off of the website where they have some of our historical data. And it shows that in 1974, Carl J. Bray was the Libertarian candidate in the 2nd Congressional District. And by the way, Utah only had 2 congressional districts in 1974. He received 1,218 votes. He was the first person in the history of Utah to appear with the political designation Libertarian next to his name. A delightful thing. It's great that he was able to do that, that we're able to remember him for holding that position. And I hope that some of us in this room will get the privilege of putting our names on the ballot with the word Libertarian next to them as we go into the elections of the future. We have a ton coming up next year. We have 75 seats in the Utah House of Representatives coming up next year. We have 14 seats in the Utah State Senate. That's 89 different elections just for the legislature. There's tons of opportunity for all of us to get involved, do whatever you can to help spread the word that Utah needs liberty, and we need it now.
Yes.
And speaking of spreading the word of liberty, I want to introduce our speaker for this evening because he is a man who has spoken for liberty throughout this country. I won't even begin to encapsulate all of the things he's done. Some of you know him as the podcaster of Adam versus the Man. Some of you know him as a candidate for the Libertarian nomination for president in 2020. Some of you may know him as one of the founders of Iraq Veterans Against the War.
Yes.
Some of you may know him for his arrest record, which is quite astounding and quite amusing at times, but probably not at the time that it happened. But it's my great pleasure to introduce to you our keynote speaker for the evening, Mr. Adam Kokesh. Thank you, Adam.
I got a podium I can't put my drink or a bong on, so. Can we do this without a microphone? Yeah? All right. Well, hello, Libertarian Party of Utah. First in the country. Yeah. Thank you to Barry, to all the officers of the state party, to Carl, to all of you for being here. And thank you to the Libertarian Party for making it 50 years. Yeah? Yeah. Wait, hold on. The official date is December 11th. We still got a week to go. Anything could happen. Anything could happen. We have one more group of people we should recognize. It's such a traditionally esteemed, formatted event for the Libertarian Party. Are there any other National Lifetime Party members here tonight? No? Yeah, I knew, yeah, at least, right? Joe. Any, really? Okay. Then I gotta do my pitch. Yeah, you know, was this shy shit, Reed, really? You're trying to make me look around. That's really, he's so libertarian, he became a lifetime member, gave the party how much money? I don't remember. He doesn't even remember. At least $1,000, right? And then forgot. So it's just money, right? I became a member of the Libertarian Party as a lifetime member in 2004 when I got, geez, this podium is on wheels. Is anybody, I'm gonna like, by the end of the talk, normally I'd be carrying the microphone around, right? No, so it was 2004. I was in Fallujah, February, September 2004. And when I got back, it was the first time I could afford it. It was $1,000 to get a lifetime membership in the Libertarian Party. Barry, do you at least know what it costs today?
I believe it's now
$1,500. There's inflation for you, right? So get yours today before it goes up anymore under Biden's new inflation plan. No, the best part about being a lifetime member of the Libertarian Party, and I know Reed knows this because he forgot, is that they stop bugging you for money. That's not true at all. Don't worry. They'll keep bugging you for money. So I was very particularly honored, not just by Barry and the Libertarian Party of Utah for choosing me to speak for this occasion, but to have this opportunity to speak to the event of the 50th anniversary and what that means. But, and I'm going to come back to that, but the actual title of my presentation tonight is Be a Pirate. Oh, I'm sorry, did I screw it up already? The title of my talk tonight is Be a Fucking Pirate. Arr! Yeah, that's better. I didn't even have to, y'all did it for me. That was, you can call in response and say pirate and get libertarians to say R. I didn't plan that. You guys just like beat me to it. Did you not catch how powerful that was? Does that not speak to, okay, so they want you to think that a pirate is someone who robs ships, right? That's a simple definition.
Operate without a license.
We're going to get to that too, sir. How do you think I got this ticket on my way here? Yeah, okay. I didn't set that up either. You think he's a plant for being that on point, right? No. They want you to think that that's what a pirate is. Look at me. I'm the captain now, right? No. The pirates that gave piracy the legendary status that it enjoys in lore and human history were veterans of the wars of the crowns of Europe, who went to the major routes of commerce, of empire of the time, and said, well, gee, what are you shipping? Gold that you stole from the natives? Shipping that back to Europe? And slaves from Africa to plantations? Fuck that. And you know what pirates did? They robbed slave ships and freed slaves and said, fuck the crown. How many of y'all want to free slaves and say, fuck the crown? Yeah? Yeah? Well then, yo ho ho and all that shit, right? I think you can tell by how much I'm cursing I'm in Utah. And I'm not running for office. Maybe a better title of my talk is saying, be a pirate. That's not very pirate-like, is it? It's more like, die or be a pirate. I'm not trying to excuse everything that was ever done historically in the name of piracy. But maybe it would be better to call this How and Why to Be a Fucking Pirate Are. Yes, okay, that would be a better title. Now, speaking to the moment of the 50th anniversary of the party, I must speak first to the moment of COVID. Yeah. COVID is there a libertarian call and response for COVID? Yeah, okay. Yeah. COVIDism, COVID hysteria, COVID policy, all of that, right? I could tell you more COVID jokes, but there's a 99.9% chance you won't get any of them. God damn. Yeah, I got some knee slaps on that one. I heard that. That joke's about as old as 2 weeks to flatten the curve, isn't it? Are y'all fucking lucky not just to be libertarians, but to be living in Utah, right? It's funny how, the ultimate inoculation against COVID is skepticism of government. And I think by now the science is undeniable. There are some really fucked up side effects of the vaccines, and worst among them is an inability to admit that you were wrong. How are we still doing this as a country, as a species? How are we still stuck in this hysteria, this fear? And I think back to 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Like, how do we still fall for this shit? You know, I got to be honest, like, I fell for it a little bit myself, right? I actually thought that, we were on the campaign trail. You know, we were talking about coming here and doing events and interviews and stuff, and had to do a little tour, wrapping things up as we went back to my homestead in the Arizona mountains. And the one thing that I've been really wrong about in looking at this whole phenomena is how long it would last. I really underestimated how deep the psychological impact of that first shutdown was. 2 weeks to flatten the curve. So much was lost during that time for humanity, for freedom, for the party. I mean, I'm kind of glad I did not win our nomination in 2020. Holy shit. Spike and Joe are not solely responsible for those numbers. It was going to be a bad year for the party. And we've come out of it stronger. I mean, y'all know here in Utah, right? You've raised more money in 21 than you did in 20 already, right? To your officer corps, to your candidates. So, what we see highlighted by COVID, by this historical event, is really the depth of what we are up against psychologically. How many of you have tried to talk to friends and family who have bought into the COVID hysteria and had absolute irrational nonsense bullshit, appeals to authority, false logic, denial thrown back at you? Has anybody gotten anything other than that? The rest of you are like, no, we don't even try, right? Y'all don't watch a lot of television, do you? He tends to set libertarians apart from the rest of the population. But if you watch TV and you're bought into that and you believe everything that you see, or at least enough that you can be fooled to think that, well, no, I peeled back one curtain. It's like, no, you got to get to the core of this thing. And what this reveals, again, the depth of what we are up against. Look at the psychological impact of that 2-week period. Because it wasn't just, hey, we've got this new unknown virus, everybody be afraid. Because I fell for that too. Until I saw, and I was like, well, no, if it's being used to push this, I'm going to be skeptical automatically. But just rational observation tells you after a while. So why didn't everybody else come out of that? Why did everybody else stay in that state of fear and submission? There's a part of the human psyche that wants that. COVID was the perfect excuse for so many people to get away with shit that they never could get away with before. Right? You want to stay home? You want to not go to school? You want to walk around like Eric Cartman with a stick and a flag on it? 6 feet, stay 6 feet away. You want to wear a mask and stop shaking hands with your neighbors? You remember that? There was a period, and it's still true in some places, where they're calling people and reporting them for talking to their neighbors outside in front of their homes. In their neighborhood, it's fucking snitch culture. You want an excuse to, print a few $1 trillion? Well, hey, COVID's good for that too. You want to live in fear? You want to give in to that? COVID's a great excuse. And there was something in that 2 weeks with the shutdowns and the lockdowns. Because when you're vulnerable, when you're beaten down, it's easier to scare you. It's harder to be rational. It's harder to think your way out of that shit. It's harder to have confidence in thinking for yourself. And so many Americans and people around the world took a turn to complacency, to evil, to giving up that life force that is animating, that is freedom, that individual will to say, oh, I will submit. I will submit to the hysteria, the authorities, whatever is called of me. And God damn, I am sick of saying I told you so. I'm sick of saying I told you so because people are dying because they're not fucking listening to people like us who know better. And I'm getting emotional talking about this right now because it affects me. It affects my family. People I know are getting hurt financially. They're getting hurt medically from lack of services, from vaccines, from everything that's fucked up because we have submitted to this hysteria. And we are the ones who, in the middle of this storm of nonsense, are relatively cool, calm, and collected. Able to look at things rationally, to read between the lines, to do our own research, to have the confidence to make decisions based on our own judgment rather than saying, I don't know, figure it out for me, let me submit, I want to be a slave. COVID was a good excuse for that too, right? If you wanted that. And in this time, it's like the mass of humanity is stuck in this fear mode, this beaten down, psychologically weakened state where they are so easily manipulated. And those of us who are not in that category, who have not succumbed to the hysteria and the fear, it's like trying to pull them out of it, and it's crazy. It's maddening to say, hey, I know you're suffering. Like Bill Clinton, I feel your pain. Sorry, I had to break. I'm going to cry if I don't break this up with something stupid. Because I feel your pain. You guys are suffering and you're stressed and you're hurting and it sucks. And I have an answer. And you don't want to hear it. You want to keep suffering. And people are still going to die. We have not seen the end of this. I'd like to think maybe 2 years in now, there's some light at the end of the tunnel that we can see if we look hard enough.
The oncoming train.
But goddamn, we can see a lot of people who are going to be hurt in the meantime, right? So, back to the moment we find ourselves in on the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Libertarian Party. There's kind of an elephant in the room for the history of the party that is an undeniable, shitty fact that most libertarians, as hard-nosed rationalists as we try to be or pretend to be, try to ignore. And it's the fact that, 50 years. I'm not even going to get into the history and get sentimental. We have people who are better than that, Mr. Buchman here. We have a great appreciation for the history of the party. And I can say, having been a lifetime member since 2004, I finally feel like I'm a part of that. And I've got some historical perspective. But I'm not going to wax poetic or sentimental about any of that. I'm just going to point out the fact that, more or less, we stalled. And I know in Utah, you got Mayor Willie Marshall with everything that he's doing. You've got the tax initiatives at the state level. You've got cannabis decrim happening in various ways. You've got ranked choice voting at the city level. Amazing progress here. And a lot of states will tell you the same thing. It feels good. I'm making progress. But can you really honestly step back at the bigger picture and say yet that we've broken out of this? No. We have stalled. As a movement, as a party. There's nothing wrong with that. We can debate it. To what extent is that true? I don't really fucking care. It's an undeniable observation. right? So let's look at that honestly and assess and say, what does that mean for us as a party? To admit that we have been turned in some small way into controlled opposition. Oh, no, we have a democracy in America. We don't have a two-party system. It's really, oh, look at those. See, there's the Libertarians. Well, because you got crazy Mayor Willie in Utah, we know that we have a fair system, and the only reason we are stuck like this is because most Americans love Democrats and Republicans. Really? I think back to the golden age of piracy. And one of the things that is most undertold in that history is how much the Pirates of the Caribbean, the real ones, not the Disney ride, inspired the American Revolution. Free the slaves and fuck the crown. Sound familiar? So I think to where we are now, in contrast to that, because did we really overthrow, did the American Revolution really overthrow the powers that be? Now, this is this fun topic of debate among libertarian academic nerds, right? How much of the powers that be pre-American Revolution simply carried on in the New World as the new banking powers, the new war powers, the same families and dynasties who ruled the old world, made it through the revolution, all the way through to where we are today as slaves of another fiat currency system, right? And just seeing the continuity of those events, of the story of human progress, gives me a lot of hope for where we are today, despite this point of having been stalled. Because I've been at this full-time, one way or another, since I got out of the Marines, joined Iraq Veterans Against the War, did Veterans for Ron Paul, and yeah, Ron Paul, right? More campaign contributions from active duty military than all other Democrat and Republican presidential primary contenders combined. Yeah. Veterans saying, fuck the crown. And with the internet and the acceleration and what feels to me as the inevitability of human progress towards a voluntary society, towards realizing this ethical message, I cannot help but see this modern episode, this historical period of the Libertarian Party, as somehow unique. Like everything in human history was just pretext for what our generation gets to do. Because it may be that this is the final battle between the pirates and the crown, where the pirates finally win.
Yeah. Woo!
My favorite quote from Ron Paul is, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. I'm sure he wasn't the first to say it, but I like attributing it to him anyway. Any of y'all brought in the Ron Paul years? But yeah, a good handful. A lot of people motivated, inspired by that, right? So what to do? What to do? How to break out of this point of being controlled opposition. And I don't know. I'm not going to stand up here and pretend to have all the answers or be able to tell you what to do. I wish I did. Isn't that why you invited me here, Barry? I'm supposed to lay out the plan, and here's my PowerPoint of how the Libertarian Party is going to win in 22 and 24, and then we're going to fundraise, and then we're going to here and Frontier Project. You know, something about pirate crews. They were all crews of free people. There were women too, but free men who were treated as such, respected as such. I think that's true about the spirit of the LP, right? Everybody's here. Wait, hold on a second. I say we're all here as volunteers, voluntarily. I forgot a little housekeeping at the beginning. Would any undercover agents please raise your hands? No? All right. It never works. It's going to one of these days. And that makes me think too about what we're up against. How many of you have heard of COINTELPRO? Anybody? That is very, very disappointing. Barry's nodding his head. Every libertarian should know what COINTELPRO is, right? If you don't know, COINTELPRO, portmanteau, counterintelligence program, which makes sense because it was an FBI program, so they're against intelligence. But the counterintelligence program was the FBI program in the 60s and 70s to render ineffective the anti-war and black power movements. The assassinations by cop, a lot of that during that time. You may have seen the recent movie Judas and the Black Messiah about Fred Hampton being assassinated in a COINTELPRO operation. And remember, I wasn't going to talk about this, Barry, but we got 4 hands. 4 hands in the room for how many people who are serious enough about the LP to be here. The only reason today we know about COINTELPRO is because in the 70s, a group of activists broke into an FBI field office, stole the documents, mimeographed them, that used to be a thing, mimeographed them, sent them to Congress and newspapers, and at first got ignored. And they persisted until it came down to congressional hearings. And they had congressional hearings, and they brought the FBI agents responsible out there and called them on the carpet. And the FBI said, "Oh, my bad, you caught us. We'll never do it again." Really? Now, I know about this primarily from my work, originally with Iraq Veterans Against the War, because Vietnam Veterans Against the War was very directly targeted by COINTELPRO. There was even a meeting in New Orleans at the end of the relevancy of Vietnam Veterans Against the War where 6 members showed up. 2 FBI, 2 DEA, 1 CIA, and 1 local cop. Not a single organic member was there at that meeting. I might be getting the agencies mixed up. All those alphabet soup motherfuckers, just whatever. So what to do? Well, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. Y'all said you wanted to be pirates, right? So that gets us to the how and why. But first, a little humility in my personal story. Ernie Hancock, Freedom's Phoenix, one of the great Arizona activists, a lot of y'all know, who've been in the party for a while at least, introduced me to a TV series called Black Sails. And yeah, some of y'all seen that? Veterans, military veterans. James McGraw, Captain Flint. Yeah, saying, you know what? The Crown doesn't give a damn about me. Why should I give a damn about the Crown? So, Ernie's project, Pirates Without Borders, was a wonderful way of him laying out the lifestyle and the skill set that he thought went along with that. When you declare yourself a pirate, what does that mean? You know, I got to tell a little story about myself getting here. Like any good pirate, I drive without a driver's license or registration or a plate on my truck. I got my license suspended for I don't know how many unpaid whatever tickets in Arizona. And when I got pulled over the last time before this, cop took my license and said, "This is suspended so many different ways, I can't let you take this." And so he confiscated the card. And that was about a year ago. And since then, I've been driving without a license, assuming my license is suspended or whatever. And when I bought the truck that I have now, that I love, my pirate vessel, I never talked to the state. Why? I need permission for that? So, Barry mentioned my arrest record in my introduction. And, you know, I think about people like Carl Bray and, you know, not having access to medical treatment in jail. That's fucking murder. Same as they did to John McAfee. By the way, if you think I'm a pirate, to John fucking McAfee.
Woo, yeah.
Whacked. A lot of people look at my arrest record and they go, "Man, you're brave." I'm not. Not in any kind of special way. But what makes me special, and I love sharing this with people who are going to absorb it and actually do something with it. What makes me appear brave is just confidence and calculated risk. And when it comes to civil disobedience, most people see, "I might get arrested, risk, and they can't even quantify it. When I got back from Iraq and joined Iraq Veterans Against the War, we were doing, protest civil disobedience. It was like, their motherfucker's still dying in the sand over there. I'll get arrested, sure. Like I just got back from combat. You think I'm gonna be afraid of some DC Capitol Police cops? Fuck no. And maybe it was that experience, but anybody can figure this out. Because like Ron Paul said, you don't have to go to Iraq to read the Constitution. Now, if you're dealing with cancer, maybe going to jail is a big deal. But for most of us, pretty acceptable risk, really, in the light of everything else that we're facing. And even people I've lived with have been afraid to ride with me in my pirate vessel, my 2001 F-150. Because it doesn't have a fucking license plate on it. Permission from the state to travel the king's roads. So on my way here, I got pulled over for not having a license plate and for having a crack in the plastic over one of my taillights that let a little white light through. And that was enough of an excuse. I'm sure it was more about the license plate. And I travel with my two dogs. They're puppies, about 7 months old. One beautiful, they're pit rot Shar-Pei mixes. One is a brindle, one is a chocolate brindle. They're just gorgeous. And their names are Thelma and Louise. So, of course, on this traffic stop yesterday evening, I had to introduce them to the cop. Don't worry, they're not going to steal your gun and lock you in the trunk of your car, but you're right, you shouldn't let them drive. Not a lot of old movie fans here, I see. Okay. Somebody's seen the movie, Thelma and Louise? All right. So, I tell them, hey, I don't have a license, You're right, there's no plate, this vehicle's not registered. And I didn't even get the chance to answer the question why. Because if he had said, well, why? Because I don't need your fucking permission to do what I'm doing. But no, he said, all right, well, I'm just going to, verify the VIN and the vehicle is owned in your name and we'll see what happens. He didn't. Every time I've gotten pulled over in the last few years, every cop tries to berate me. You know, you have 3 different warrants out for your arrest that are not extraditable, but I'm going to hold it over your head even though I can't do anything about it. I don't think cops are looking to be assholes anymore. In fact, the George Floyd verdict, the Chauvin verdict, is what took that awareness of, yeah, there are cameras everywhere. My life could be over. My career could be done at any minute, to be implanted in cops' minds. And now they really, oh gosh, the pressure of the public keeping us from being assholes versus the pressure of our employers making us enforce the will of politicians on people. It's a little more balanced out now in a lot of places. Maybe here in Utah. Right? Let's celebrate the lessening and the severity of the police state. That's a beautiful product of technology and our activism. Yes. The LP deserves a lot more credit for that than we take. So, I got out of there with this. Arizona Department of Public Safety warning/equipment repair order. I can't really read it through my notes on the back now. Warning equipment, because he didn't really want to fuck me over the license issue or the plate issue. So warning equipment repair orders are issued to you as a courtesy. Oh, I was stopped in my travels at the threat of gunpoint as a courtesy. To remind you to do your part in promoting safety on our highways by closely observing our traffic laws. Yes, I observe them as they pass by. The funniest part about this, during this traffic stop, he ran my name and birthday. Because I'm not going to try to hide my identity, from an officer of the law. I'm a representative of the crown, excuse me. And he told me my license had been reinstated.
Yeah, as a courtesy.
Am I some kind of fucking privateer now? I thought I was cool. Now I have a driver's license again? Shit! You know why it had been reinstated? Because in September, the state of Arizona realized that they had way too many suspended licenses on their books and had to en masse just reinstate tens of thousands of them. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The pirates are winning. Rebellion pays more than obedience. And this is only one small example, but people, have the courage of your convictions to act on that calculated risk when you know that stepping away from what is expected of you is going to lead to a happier life. All right, so to bring it back to a little cliche, you guys don't know COINTELPRO, you don't know Thelma and Louise. How about Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean? Can I quote Captain Jack Sparrow? Captain Jack Sparrow. By the way, there's a part of the story that's actually in the Disney lore that's written out. Jack Sparrow became a pirate because as an employee of the British East India Trading Company, he was moving slaves and refused to do it and freed them. That That's the backstory they write out of the Disney version of piracy. Yeah. So Captain Jack Sparrow, Captain, has a speech he gives on the beach to Elizabeth Swann about the Black Pearl. Y'all remember this? Yes. What is the Black Pearl? Is it wood? Is it hemp? Is it canvas? Is it a hull or masts and rope and sails? No. What is it? Freedom. To be able to travel, to live freely, without any authority over you. So, speaking of vessels, it's not just my pirate truck. You take this analogy, perhaps, this ethos of classical piracy into the modern age. I think my most effective vessel is my homestead, Gardenia. Yes. The constitutional proprietarian monarchy of the Garden of Freedom in perpetuity, titles, whatever. Yeah, the most libertarian form of government is actually a constitutional proprietarian monarchy where you own land and say, fuck y'all, I'm king and these are the rules here. By the way, when I bought my land, I didn't connect to any existing roads. So you know what I did, right?
Roads.
I built a road.
Yeah!
It's a 1/4 mile scratch in the dirt, so don't get too excited, but it is called Ma Road. We even have a street sign that says Ma Road. So, homesteading as a vessel for piracy. To free slaves and say, fuck the crown. What better way? And a big part of this is the lifestyle, right? There's the obvious one. Stop fucking working for government. And you know what? If you're the average tax-paying American, you're working for government. How much? Y'all know this, right?
Too much. 5 months.
It's about half the year. Yeah, you can debate how inclusive to be, but if you add up all the fees, fines, hidden taxes that the average tax-paying working American pays, you're working for government half the fucking year. Stop! Stop! As people in this room, is it not? Some of y'all broken free, right? Some entrepreneurs, some homesteaders, some covert pirates who don't have like a cool belt buckle and goofy outfit like me, right? It's okay. Your consumption. You know, and this is something, by the way, I've been working on this a lot lately for myself in terms of lifestyle. You know, there's only so much you can really avoid contributing to the system without being a monk on a mountaintop. It's always a compromise. But every dollar that we can keep out of the hands of the state is one less dollar that can be used against us. So fucking stop. And you don't have to be a dick about it, because nobody's perfect. But be an example. And be happier as a result. And show people the way to that. Health is a big part of it. Human beings are not designed to be food processing units. We are not designed to be consumers. And I know a lot of people here, this is really personal, right? How many people here would say their health is not where they want it to be? Come on, be honest. It's almost everybody, isn't it? How many people, their health is not where... I'm sorry, I wasn't planning this. I didn't ask it perfectly. How many of you wish you could be healthier? Is that everybody, pretty much? Why are you not as healthy as you could be? Monsanto, good answer. Do they force feed you Monsanto products, sir, here in Utah? Or do you consume them by choice?
Organic, baby.
Yeah, exactly. It's a choice. It's a choice. I'm going to be really blunt, and I'm going to piss people in this room off. Being overweight is fucking statist.
Yes.
Damn.
Explain.
If I'm going to talk for 45 minutes, it's going to happen eventually. You didn't invite me here to not piss anybody off, did you?
I would have been very naive to have expected that.
But I'm not going to stand up here and say, oh, look, I'm healthy because I choose to be, and that's a product of my being libertarian, without calling out the obverse of that and saying, like, no, really? You have been given the gift of human life and a healthy, complete, whole body and a sound mind. How dare you piss that away because government and corporations have tricked you into being a consumer instead of a whole human being? Take it back. Take it back. So your consumption. But you know what that's connected to, right? Even more fundamentally is your mental health. We talk about physical health pretty openly now. It's still pretty taboo to talk about people's mental health issues, right? Even for vets with PTSD. For libertarians who experience the anxiety and the loneliness that comes with the process of stepping out of the herd before you find your community in our movement and in our party and in organizations like this, thanks to people like Barry and the other officers of the state party here. We are all healing from statism. We are all recovering from patterns of historical trauma that we are only now becoming aware of. But there's nothing holding us back anymore, except ourselves, our own excuses and rationalizations and whatever is keeping us in Babylon. And your mental health, how much of that is determined by how you consume information? Are you a conscientious consumer of information? I would suggest that people in this room are probably light years ahead of the average American. How many of y'all are on Facebook? Well, never mind.
How many actually browse?
You get my point, right? How many of y'all can say that you're really, truly perfect, conscientious consumers of information? None of us can be. It's another ideal, right? You think you've gone through that? That's great. And a lot of people have, in their process of libertarians, or becoming libertarian, have adjusted that and said, you know what, I need to be careful about what I put in my brain as much as what I put in my body. Because if you don't keep the bullshit out of your brain, you can't keep the bullshit out of your body. And I'm about to turn 40. Now, I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17. And I am still shedding bullshit conditioning from that I recognized just a few years ago. Really was keeping me in a stunted psychological childlike state in a number of ways. Because that was what they wanted. They want order followers, obedient trigger pullers. And your communications, what you consume and how. I got to do a quick plug for Telegram as an app for communications, as a way to get off of social media and design your own feed. Telegram, it's a texting app that evolved into the ability to create channels and create your own feed without censorship. It's a very powerful tool that gets us back to using the internet without the pollution of Facebook or Twitter or your feed or whatever as intermediaries. So when I think of all of these statist lifestyles that we've been sucked into, all of these habits and negative patterns, I think of the metaphor of Babylon. Does that ring true here in Utah? You guys hear metaphors like that from time to time? While living, I know technically we're not in Salt Lake City right now, but
County.
okay, we're in the county. Bad enough, right? How many of y'all live outside of Salt Lake City or outside of this county, outside this area? So does it feel when you come in, you feel it, right? With COVID especially, I've heard from a couple people tonight, well, COVID's not really bad in Utah, except when you come to Salt Lake City. Oh, so living in cities causes COVID. Okay, gotcha. But this metaphor of Babylon, right? And I think, how do we save people? Pull people out. How do we inspire people? How do we free slaves? Especially when they want to be slaves. Like, this is what we're really up against. That there's a place in the human brain. There's in the flow chart of decision making, where you decide to either be free and independent and loving and courageous and a fully self-actualized human being, or to be an obedient slave. You choose piracy or the crown. And it's not you're either with us or against us. Like Howard Zinn said, you can't stay neutral on a moving train, right? To not oppose the crown, the evil empires of the world, is to submit. And you must declare, if you want to be free, if you want to live that better life, to declare yourself on the other side of that. To say that you are going to free slaves, starting with yourself, to fuck the crown. So one of my other vessels is a nonprofit I started recently called Homefront Battle Buddies. And before I say that, are there any other veterans in the room, like military? Don't worry, I'm not going to make you stand up and blow smoke up your ass or sing the national anthem or anything. This is a libertarian event after all, right? Okay. Normally there's a good chunk at libertarian events because something about being that tip of the spear for government repels you from that evil and you recognize it. One of the things that I have realized is the critical difference between warriors and soldiers. A warrior is someone who is willing to risk their life to protect those who cannot protect themselves, to do the right thing, to make sacrifices when called upon. A soldier is someone who signs a piece of paper and puts on a uniform and takes a paycheck to kill for politicians. And I dare say that everybody in this room is more of a warrior than anyone in the U.S. military today. And what you do, what we do as a Libertarian Party, is that critical distinction between being a warrior and a soldier. And so I think about the warrior class, and people that actively want to engage in that, to serve humanity that way. Because I joined the Marine Corps, well, Full Metal Jacket, right? I wanted to be the first kid on my block with a confirmed kill. No, I want to have my life on the line. Do people in Utah not watch movies? God damn. Full Metal Jacket. I want to be the first kid on my block with a confirmed kill. Whatever noble warrior spirit in me was perverted to the point where I volunteered to go to Iraq because I didn't want to miss the party. I didn't want to be the Marine in my unit without a combat action ribbon. And so now I have created another vessel for myself called Homefront Battle Buddies. And, oh wait, I got postcards and stickers. We're real. All right. Homefront Battle Buddies. Our mission is to create a community of veterans helping each other pursue alternative healing therapies and transition to civilian life through online organizing and in-person retreats. Basically, we want to get vets stoned in the woods. And by stoned, we subtly mean to include psilocybin, ayahuasca, MDMA, ketamine, and whatever else we can facilitate, because of course, as a 501c3, we wouldn't dare directly participate in any illegal activities. There's so many veterans right now in this country who are waiting to be called back into action. And I think right now, more than ever, the country, the world, needs its warriors to say, fuck the crown. And it really is about empowering veterans from the ground up, not just with alternative therapies. But what we're creating is a model here for retreats where everybody can have safe, reliable access to every alternative healing modality that is kept from us by government and big pharma, so that we can reclaim our mental health, reclaim our humanity, reclaim our physical health, reclaim our confidence, our ability to think for ourselves, to live by our principles, so that we can say fuck the crown and drink rum and all that good shit. So, what is the result of this? What do you get? To be a pirate? To sing cool songs? To say fuck the man, fuck the crown? To be able to drive on the king's roads without paying bullshit licensing fees and getting to spend that money on pot instead. So I go back to the theme of the occasion here, right, Barry? The 50th anniversary of the Libertarian Party, where we acknowledge how we have stalled and come together as a party, as a movement, as a family, to ask why. And honestly, there are a lot of answers. None of them are very good. But if you get to be a pirate, at least you get to live an inspiring life. You get to dance, to love, to sing, to drink, to be merry, but ultimately, why? Why be a pirate? Why take the risk? You see pirates get hung every day on the news, don't you? Either a Carl Brady, or a John McAfee, or a Johnny Hurley. It's too many names. How many of our brethren have met the noose historically by standing up to the state? But now, the risk that we face is lower than ever, and there are more of us than ever before. None of this matters. None of this matters. Because it comes down to that fundamental psychological choice between obedience and subservience and slavery versus freedom and love and humanity. And everybody in this room has already made that choice. We are the pirates of our generation. We are the warriors the world so desperately needs today. And we are the libertarians. Thank you very much. No better standing ovation than a forced half one. Thank you very much.
I just need to adjust my pants, that was all. Mary, you should raise a toast.
Should we raise a toast? Would you like to propose a toast?
Yes.
All right.
Propose a toast
Yes.
in honor of Adam and his speech.
In honor of Adam. Hear, hear.
Here's the pirates.
Here's to fire. Har! Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Adam. It's important to celebrate. It's also important to be challenged. It's important to challenge ourselves. You know, I know a lot about my family history. I haven't found any pirates yet, in the traditional sense. But I was thinking as you were talking about two people in my family who did something perhaps comparable. My great-great-great-great-grandfather, Thomas Leland Jr., took part in probably the most important day in American history, April 19th, 1775, at Lexington, where he heard the shot heard round the world. I often think, could I have been there and stood as he did? He was 19 years old. And he stood there and put his life on the line to say, fuck the crown. The other one, and Adam, I think I mentioned this when you spoke down at UVU a few years back. One of my cousins started the Civil War. You've probably heard of him. His name was John Brown, a leading abolitionist who said, free the slaves. And he finally said, we're going to free these slaves, and I don't care what the cost is to me. I don't care what the cost is to my family. We have to free the slaves. And the die of the Civil War was cast when the United States government hanged John Brown in 1859. And it was set then. There was going to be a war. A year later, in no small part because of John's death, we elected a president who wasn't from either of the major parties of that time. He was from what was a third upstart party then, the Republican Party. His name was Abraham Lincoln. And when he was elected, the war began. You know, you're right, Adam. We need to free the slaves. We have to free the slaves. And it's our job all together. And I'm going to get emotional too, but I just want to say, just in closing tonight, I want to thank everybody here for all that you do for the cause of liberty here in Utah. For all some of you I know have done things in other states before you came here to Utah. Some of you are still doing things on the national level as well as in Utah. But for all you do, I thank you all so much. If you haven't joined the Utah Libertarian Party, I ask that you please come and join us, pitch in, be part of this effort to take this state to the level that it needs to get to, a place where we're all going to recognize each and every one of us as valuable individuals. We're not just collectives to be exploited. We're each and every one of us an individual who deserves respect, who deserves proper treatment, who deserves the freedom to make our choices for ourselves. So please join us. You can go to join.libertarianutah.org. Nice and simple to remember. Join the party. If you can contribute, that's great. If you can get in touch with our county chairs, volunteer, help in our efforts this year. I want to turn this state upside down, and I believe that the time is ripe for us to be able to do that. We've spent 50 years building up to this point. Let's make sure that 50 years from now, when we're talking about the 100th anniversary of the Libertarian Party, they're talking about what we did in the 2020s. That's what I want to do.